In this trade video, you're going to learn the first 7 steps to investing in pre-foreclosures so you know exactly what to do and when to do it. All coming up. Hey, this is Chris Goff, co-founder of the REIPro software, and I'd love for you to subscribe and click that notification bell for new training videos. It's going to help you grow your knowledge base, increase your confidence, and help you put more money in your pocket as a real estate investor. Step number 1, locate deals. This part is probably one of the easiest steps because all pre-foreclosure information is available to the public. With that being said, you're going to find this in the public records. Now, you're not going to see the whole picture, understand the situation of the owner, and depending on your county, some information may be limited. The other thing to mention is that you'll have to get in your car and drive down to the county recorder's office to do your research. Once you get there, what we're looking for are notice of defaults, lis pendens, which is Latin for lawsuit, or notice of sale in any one of these 3. So when we get to the courthouse, we're going to start searching for this information. Some of this will be posted on a wall. Some counties will not post it on a wall. You may have to ask some people when you get in there. Another great way to find pre-foreclosures is REIPro, and this is probably going to be the fastest way. Plus, it's going to give you a better way to filter your leads to the ones that will financially make sense. Let me show you how to do it. The first thing you want to do is click on pre-foreclosures. Then I'm going to actually type in either a city, county, or zip code, wherever you want to search. In this example, I'm going to search Harris County, Texas. As you see, we almost have 1,100 properties in pre-foreclosure just in the Houston area. Now, not all of these properties are actually going to turn into deals. So we need to filter this list down to the best targeted list. Some of these properties may be upside down. They're not going to have enough equity. Sometimes they just may not be the type of property you're looking for, or it could be out of your price range. So in this example, I want to show you how I would actually filter a list of pre-foreclosures down. Now, over to the left-hand side, you could add in multiple locations, especially the investor that isn't just focused on one area. This would be great. Now you can see price. We start with price. I'm actually going to start with potential equity. For me, working with a pre-foreclosure, I need to have a minimum equity percentage here. Like I said, if they don't have much equity, you're just basically carrying over a property with no equity, so you're basically paying full price. And now some of these properties could be actually upside down on their mortgage. So we definitely want to make sure that there's equity in this particular deal. Now I'm going to skip bedrooms as well. You could go to the recording date, but the one thing that I really want you to focus on is the auction date, right? So the homeowner is going to have up to this particular auction date, and then it's going to go in front of the courthouse steps and people are going to bid. What we want to do is actually acquire the property prior to the auction date. So I'm going to click future auction dates. Now the type of property, it's pretty personal. You could go into residential here. Me, personally, I'm going to just select single family homes. That's what I like to work with. You can work with condos. And again, this will be very different depending on where you live in the country. Some of the property attributes here, you can narrow this down from bathrooms, property size, lot size, year built, subdivision, and last sold date. Now, to me, last sold date is not too relevant. Just the simple fact that we already know they're in pre-foreclosure. It doesn't matter if they bought the house 12 months ago or 10 years ago. We know that there's a problem with this. Now, if you go down to the owners, I like to work with people that are individual. I want to remove any kind of company-owned properties that may have gone into a pre-foreclosure state, meaning like an LLC, or it could be just a big company that owns tons of properties. So you just never know. Times have definitely changed. So we want to make sure that we remove company-owned properties. If you send marketing material out to the companies, it's going to be very difficult to get it into the hands of the person that can actually make a decision. Now, as far as owner-occupied or non-owner-occupied, to me, that doesn't matter in this case. The simple fact is they're in pre-foreclosure. It doesn't matter if they live in the property or if they don't live in the property. We know there's a problem. I'm going to scroll back up to the top and click Apply Changes. And this is going to take this list down from 1,000 As you can see, we ended up with 52 leads. And keep in mind, I didn't put any price, I didn't put any bedrooms or baths. Here's what I know. They're in trouble, they're in pre-foreclosure, and as long as I can get the numbers to work, it can be a great deal. No matter if it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, or if it's $100,000 or $800,000 property. Now, if I scroll down below the map, and I can start to scroll over here, you can see where the auction date is coming forward. So if we're in August, I now have a full month to actually market these properties prior to going to auction, because once the property goes to auction, the homeowner is going to lose the property. You can see the potential equity amounts. Again, this is what we're really looking for, because if we're going to buy an investment property, we have to have a return on our investment. So there has to be some equity. From this point forward, I could take this list and start marketing the homeowners and seeing if we can actually acquire the property. Step number 2, marketing. Now, there are several ways to market for leads, and in this training, I'm only going to cover the main ones. If you click the info tab in the upper corner, I have a more detailed training video that explains several marketing strategies for people in pre-foreclosure. The first is cold calling. Now, this is going to be one of the hardest ways to market sellers, and it does take practice. I want you to think about it. If you're in trouble, you're probably screening your calls. And me personally, I don't like to use any of the automated texting services out there because there's a lot of new laws in place. So you need to do your research before you start texting people, and you don't want to get in trouble. But I'm going to give you the phone script I use in just a moment. Next is direct mail. This is one of my favorite ways because you get the owner to contact you. And when owners contact you, their guard is down and it's a much easier conversation. Some of the ways we like to direct mail market is just using simple letters. Now, these could be a drafted company type letter, or it could be just more of a personal letter. We also love to use postcards because it's one of the most cost-effective ways to do direct mail. And special reports. One of the things I love to do, which we include inside of REIPro, are these special reports explaining exactly what it is in the world that we're even trying to do. You know, the owner needs to understand exactly what are the basic steps. What is this process? What are the pains if they don't do anything? And this is what I love about special reports. Next is online marketing, which is another great way to market for deals. Now, we personally use the following. Number one, just a website. Could be a main branding website where it just tells everything about what you do, all the way down to a very specific one-page website, which would be catered to people that are in pre-foreclosure, and that's all it talks about. This is what we call a landing page, or what we call a squeeze page. So definitely like to send traffic to that particular website, get some information, even offer a free guide, something in exchange for some basic information so we can reach out to the owner to find out more detailed information. Next is running Facebook ads as well as Google AdWords. So this is going to be 3 of the top online marketing places that we're going to search and market for people that are in pre-foreclosure. Now, the first one we talked about was letter marketing. So here, as you can see, we have a letter. I came up with this whole foreclosure clock, which helps the owner understand the process of what's going to take place and, when is it actually out of their control. So I love using this style letter where we actually have an explanation of what's going on, but I want you to add a small touch to it. Right? So I want you to add this small Post-it note. Now you can handwrite, hey, call me today, something very simple. Put your phone number and put your name. I want you to place this right on top of the letter, and it kind of just adds that little personal touch to it. The very next thing I want you to do is actually take this letter with the Post-it note and put it in a priority envelope. People are more likely to open a priority mail envelope than they would just a standard envelope. Now, this will cost a few dollars to do, and I wouldn't recommend just doing this, to 1,000 different homeowners. If you have a small number, maybe 20 to 50, this will be a great way, because at the end of the day, our goal is for them to open it, read it, and contact us. Now, they can contact us by phone. They could potentially email us. They may want to go to your website or landing page to learn more about who you are, what you do, and what is this all about. Next is postcard marketing. This is one of our top postcards that we use. I wanted to share the front cover with you. Now, big, bold headline, right? You still have time. I think that's, you could be creative with your headlines, but you want something big and bold. Now, the picture is relatable. You understand, at least I would think most people have played this game Jenga where it's going to fall over. The longer you wait, it's going to come down at some point. So, I want to use some picture that people can relate to. In this particular case, has a house on it. You always want to explain the benefits, not necessarily the features and the cool things that you do, but what are the actual benefits of all those cool things that you do? What is the benefit of them using you or contacting you to purchase their property or help them out? So we definitely want to explain some of the benefits. And of course, to learn more, which you'd be able to get to the backside where you could have a little bit more information. You're going to find this card in REIPro. So all of our members that are watching, you're going to find this. This is one of our most popular cards, and definitely want to use something like this. Next, what I like is what we talked about, special reports. And one of the strategies that we actually use with pre-foreclosures is what we call owner or seller finance. Now, this is going to be a great report that's actually going to explain what it is. I know if you're just getting started, it's going to be very difficult to actually explain what it is to the homeowner. If you use, your marketing in a way that it's already spelled out for you, you don't have to reinvent the wheel on how to explain something when we already have the content in here. So utilize these special reports. You can put them in an envelope as well and send that out. Now, I personally like to use this as a second touch marketing piece. We're going to send either a letter, we're going to send a postcard, we're going to send something first just to grab their attention. And then we can always follow up with a special report where it may go into a little bit more detail about exactly what we do. Next is a website. Now, this particular screenshot here is really for a very specific page on a website, or it's the complete website, which we call landing page. And in this example, we're going to actually show a video. Hey, how do you avoid foreclosure and save your credit, right? Big headline. They're going to put in some basic information, watch a video, and that's going to give us time to build that relationship. They get to see who you are, at least listen to what you're talking about and how you can actually help the homeowner. So I definitely recommend at least having a landing page. One of our favorite companies, we're not affiliated with them, but it's called Lead Pages. This is what they do. They literally have the entire platform for building out landing pages. Now, you will need to supply the content and so forth, but they do have some very good templates that you can get started with. It's a very simple system to use. You don't have to be too computer savvy to jump in here and actually build a very professional either website or a landing page. Next is Facebook marketing. So another really good place to get your message out. So when people are scrolling through their feeds and they may be in this situation, they can run across your ad. That's going to give them an opportunity to maybe go to your landing page or your website or even potentially call. So the one thing is description with enticing free offer, right? So in this particular example, we're actually giving away a free book, right? So, and it's a limited time offer. You want to create that sense of urgency. Simple picture just to grab attention. You could see this couple is just frustrated. They're worried. And, people can relate to that if you're in this particular situation. A call to action. And I want you to repeat the free offer. Never think that somebody read the entire description. So you want to repeat that again. Next is Google marketing. This is just an example ad that we have used in the past. It's very simple. It's straight to the point. Again, we're not going to talk about the details of how to do Google marketing or how to do Facebook marketing. Those are things that you can go out there, and there's tons of information and tutorials and videos on how to actually create these ads. And I think the most important thing is, what's the content? What are we actually saying to the person? So when somebody is in pre-foreclosure and they're going to Google trying to figure out how do you avoid this? What's going to happen? What is the process? Are they going to come after me? Are they taking the house? That's where they're going to see these particular ads. Step 3, you got to contact the owner. A couple of things I want you to really focus on when you're talking to people is what's their situation? Now, we understand that they're behind in payments. We understand that they're getting ready to go through this whole foreclosure process, but why? Did they lose their job? A lot of different reasons out there. I just want you to understand their situation. The more you understand the situation, you're going to create something that is by far one of the most important things, and that's trust. When somebody talks about, hey, I've been going through a hard time, I lost my job, and you're sitting there listening to them, sometimes listening is more powerful than you speaking. And I think a lot of even my students, when I go into a house and they watch me communicate with the owner, they're really shocked on how much I don't say. And I'm just getting the owner to talk, and that's going to build the trust. Obviously, you want to walk through the property. You're going to do an inspection of the property. Want to take lots of pictures of the property. And keep in mind, we really need to understand the condition of the property. So we understand how to calculate our numbers, maybe from a potential rehab point of view, which we're going to get to. Just build a relationship. That relationship is going to start by understanding their situation, talking to them, let them talk to you. That trust is going to come there, and you will be shocked on how important this one part is, because if they don't trust you and they don't buy into you, they're never going to buy anything that you have to offer. Again, the relationship building is so important. Now, we talked about the phone script. So here's the phone script. You can find this in REIPro as well. Hi, my name is Chris. I was calling about a property you own located at 123 Happy Street in Houston. I understand that there may be a pending problem, but I've been able to help good people out of foreclosure. Would you mind just taking a couple of minutes to tell me about your home? Not necessarily about them, but just tell me about their home. So you can change this around. I think, you have to talk where you feel comfortable saying whatever it is. We also have to identify the fact that, there is a pending problem. We don't know exactly what the pending problem is outside of we know it's in foreclosure, but a lot of homeowners are not going to think that you would know that, right? So they think it's some hidden secret and it's not public information. Unfortunately, it is public information. Let's talk about some of the questions to ask. Now, obviously, basic stuff, property details. How many beds, baths, square footage? Tell me about the property. One of the ways that I always say this is, could you tell me a little bit about the property? Like a little bit. And when you say a little bit, they end up talking a lot about it. And that's really, I want to get a full understanding, a full picture of what this property is, from the age of the roof to, how long have you owned it? I want to know all the details about this particular property. Is it vacant? Do they still live in there? Because if they still live in there, they're going to have to move. And if they are behind on payments, they may not be able to afford to move. So I need to start understanding, is this going to be something where I may have to offer moving expenses? If the property is vacant, how long has it been vacant? Right? Has it been vacant 10 years? I mean, what's going on? So this is a very important question. Obviously, repairs, condition. What does the seller want? Now, everybody wants, a home run where I want my home back, I want to stay in the house, and I want the bank to go away, and I don't want to pay them any more money, right? So at the end of the day, that's just not going to happen. Number one, they will lose the house if it goes to auction, period. If it goes to auction, sheriff's going to show up and kick them out onto the street. That's what happens. They don't legally own the property anymore. You're going to hear is, I want to stay in my house. Can I do that? And unfortunately, the answer is going to be no. I would never want to look at a pre-foreclosure situation where if they can't pay their own bank to stay in the property, if I were to take over in possession of the property, why in the world would they ever pay me? We need to move them to another property. Now, being in real estate, you might have another property that they can get to, maybe something a little more affordable. And I think that's kind of our end goal. It's not just to kick them out. That's kind of the wrong impression. We want to help them as much as we possibly can. And again, we may have to pay for moving expenses. Now, next, we need to gather all the important information so we can actually analyze this particular property. And is it going to make financial sense to even continue and go down this road? Step number 4, gathering info. So let's talk about some of the most important pieces of information that you're going to need to get from the owner. Number 1 is what we call the reinstatement amount, or what we call the back payment amount. So here's what they've fallen behind. Now, as an investor, if I can supplement and make that back up, that would immediately bring the loan current. If the loan is current, it stops the foreclosure process. So we need to understand exactly what this amount is. Now, they will be getting letters in the mail that will explain what this is. Next is the payoff balance. So what do they actually owe on the property? Now, keep in mind, if we go back to our marketing, we really need to be target marketing properties that have some equity in it. Next are, what are the current monthly payments? Because if we take over this property via a seller finance, which we're going to get to here in a second, we have to make these payments for the owner, because keep in mind, they're not making them. So we're going to have to make them while maybe we're rehabbing the house and getting ready to put it back on the market. So we need to understand what that cost is going to be. Next is the auction date. So how much time do we have right before it goes to auction? Because like I said before, if it gets to auction, they lose the property. They will be kicked out of the property at this particular time. So what are the comps? What are the comparable sales? You may even want to check rent values. You really want to understand if it's worth this much and it needs this much in repairs. I'm going to have X amount of expenses and their payoff is this. Is there anything left for me to profit? Next would be an authorization to release. This would be a simple form that you and the homeowner can sign, and that's going to give you the opportunity to speak to their bank on their behalf. So if you need any additional information, like just even a current payoff statement, this would be a great form to have the owner sign, so you could just contact the bank on your own. Step number 5, structure the deal. So here's where the rubber meets the road. This is one of the most important steps, and you need to be sure the numbers make sense. Otherwise, your investment and time will not only disappoint the owner, but you also lose money. So the first way that we can actually acquire the property is to pay cash, meaning that if this is the payoff balance and there's enough equity in this property, I could just go pay cash for this. Now, it doesn't have to be your cash. We're just simply saying that we're going to pay the owner in one lump sum. So we're going to make a check, a payment to the bank, say whatever's owed on this property, here you go. And now you take ownership. You are literally buying the house in one lump sum. The next way to do it is what we call seller finance, which is taking over their payments. So we'll structure this deal where you start making the payments for the owner until the property sells. So for me to do this, I would want the deed of the property to be deeded to me. I want to be the new owner, even though the loan is still in the owner's name. Okay, this is going to give me time to fix up the property and then turn around and sell it. Once that property sells, that would pay off the existing loan in this case and make everybody happy. Last but not least is you could technically wholesale the deal. So structure the offer by either paying cash or structure it in a seller finance way. And then you could actually assign that deal to a new investor. And I've got a great training video where we talk about how to wholesale pre-foreclosures step by step. So I would highly encourage you to check out that training. All right, so let me give you some tips when you start structuring the deal. Number 1, the offer must meet everyone's needs. If one party disagrees, the deal is going to come apart. It's going to crumble. So we want to make sure that everybody's on board with what we're going to do, no matter which way that you decide to go. You may have to offer moving expenses. This is probably one of the things that we would do almost every single time, because most people that are in this situation don't have the cash to actually move, and it could become very expensive. Now think about it. You could offer a split in the sale. So this isn't just a way for you to make money. A lot of people may look at it from taking advantage, but we're not actually taking advantage of anybody. They're getting ready to lose the house, and the bank is getting ready to kick them on the street. What we're doing is actually stopping that. If we stop the foreclosure process, either it be paying cash, structuring seller financing, which in that case, we would make up the back payments, start making payments on it, or you could wholesale that to somebody that could do one of those two things as well. That's going to ultimately save their credit. This is actually helping somebody, but you could take it a step further and maybe even structure it in a way where everybody can actually benefit financially from the deal. So don't think that you're just running into a house, taking it from somebody because they're in a desperate situation and making money from it. So that is not the case whatsoever. Remember, if the numbers don't work, move on. They don't work. I know it can be, this is a business where, they're in a desperate situation. And I think just basic human sense says that I want to help you. Step number 6, close the deal. So if paying cash or creating a seller finance or even a wholesale, you always should have an attorney draw up the agreement. This is not something that you would want to do. We want to make sure that everything is put into these agreements. And there could be multiple pieces of paper with these agreements because there's a lot of things going on. So we definitely want an attorney to draft that up. Now, I would obviously recommend somebody that has actually done one of these agreements. You don't want to have an attorney that's never done this before try to draw up an agreement. So it's always the first question you would ask any kind of real estate attorney is, hey, have you ever done this type of deal before? Then you could close the deal with either a title company or an attorney. So if you're paying cash, you could close anywhere. If you're seller financing, you could do that as well. And if you're wholesaling the deal, you're going to close either at one of these two places anyways. And of course, you would get an assignment fee for doing so. Again, this training video is just to cover these initial steps, not necessarily the details of those. I would highly encourage you to check out some of the other training videos I have on my channel, as well as in REIPro. So then if you're paying cash or seller finance, keep in mind, if you wholesale the deal, you're done. You're out of the deal at this particular point. But if you went the other two directions, we have a few more steps. Number one, you're going to have to pay the reinstatement amount or whatever that back payment amount. So keep in mind, I want to close on the property and actually own it before I actually make this payment. The last thing you want to do is make a back payment of 10 grand or 15 or $20,000. And then the closing never goes through and you don't even own the property. So you would have just lost all that money. So I want to make sure that the deed is in my name first. Then I'm going to make that back payment up. Once I do that, it's going to bring the loan current, which will ultimately stop the foreclosure process. Then I'm going to line up contractors and I'm going to rehab the home. Step number 7, your exit strategy. So once the home is repaired, now what in the world do we do? Well, you've got options. Now, the very first thing that I would highly encourage you to do is to sell the property. Remember, the deed is in your name, but the loan is still in the owner's name. So we want to close on this as quickly as possible just to cash that loan out. The homeowner would then be free from the property and the debt. And of course, we would make some money in the process by selling it. So our goal is to rehab the property, sell it at a tip-top price, and profit that way. So this would be the preferred method. You obviously could sell or finance it. You could lease option it, and you could rent it. Now, keep in mind, you're going to still continually make payments to the owner's bank. Again, I would prefer that you sell the property, but again, exit strategy doesn't necessarily mean it's step 7. We should be thinking about the exit strategy before we even make the offer. So most pre-foreclosure deals will probably go the route of seller financing. We would then rehab the property, put it back on the market in tip-top shape, sell to a qualified buyer. At closing, would pay the original debt out underneath the owner, and we would make a nice profit and move on to the next deal. Thanks for watching, and if you learned something valuable in this training, please give us a thumbs up. If you have a comment or a question, I'd be happy to answer it.